So if you're out there building internal developer platforms, you know the feeling, right? You create these amazing tools to make everyone's lives easier, but when someone asks that simple question, is it any good? It's tough to answer. Today, we're going to crack the code on that exact question by diving into the powerful, secret language of SLIs and SLOs. Right, so you've built this amazing internal platform. It's supposed to be a game changer for your developers. But is it actually working? Is it reliable? I mean, how do you even know? So many platform teams really struggle to measure their own success and prove their value with something more than just, anecdotes and gut feelings. Okay, to really get to the bottom of this, we're going to go on a little four-part journey. First, we'll talk about the core dilemma that pretty much every platform team faces. Then we'll learn the language we need to actually define what good enough means. From there, we'll apply it to a real-world example. And finally, we'll see how this whole thing completely changes the way we make decisions with data. All right, first up, the platform dilemma. This is a problem that I'm willing to bet a lot of you platform engineers out there are going to recognize immediately. Without clear data, it is so easy to get stuck just putting out fires. The team that complains the loudest gets their issue fixed, right? Meanwhile, a much more critical but silent problem might be slowing down hundreds of other developers. You're basically flying blind, just reacting to the noise instead of the real signal. And that leads to these really frustrating questions. You start asking yourself, how do we even justify our work? How do we decide whether to spend our time improving reliability versus shipping that cool new feature everyone's asking for? It's this uncertainty that we absolutely have to solve. So, to get out of that fog, we need a formal language for reliability. We need a way to have objective, data-driven conversations about what good actually looks like. And that language is built on two key ideas: SLIs and SLOs. First up is the service level indicator, or SLI. The easiest way to think about this is like the speedometer in your car. It's just a direct, quantifiable measurement of one specific thing. It's not a goal, it's just the raw data. So for example, what percentage of deployments were successful? That percentage, that's your SLI. Now, once you have your measurement, you need a target. And that is your service level objective, or SLO. If the SLI is your speedometer, the SLO is the speed limit. It takes that raw measurement and attaches a goal to it over a specific period of time. The SLO is the promise you make to your users, your developers, about how the platform is going to perform. So let's put it side by side, because this is really the key. The SLI asks the question, how are we measuring this? The SLO provides the answer. This is our target for that measurement. See, an SLI by itself is just a number floating in space, but an SLO gives that number meaning and turns it into a real commitment. Okay, enough theory. Let's see how this stuff actually works in the real world with a tool I'm sure many of you are familiar with: an internal platform as a service, or PaaS, the system developers use to deploy and run their apps. Now, building a meaningful SLO might sound super complicated, but it really boils down to this simple, user-focused process. You just pick a critical journey for your user, you figure out how to measure it with an SLI, and then you set a clear SLO target. That's it. It always starts with the user. So for our pause, what's one of the most important things a developer does? Well, they create a new service. I mean, if that process is slow, or if it fails a lot, their trust in the entire platform just disappears. So this is the perfect journey to measure. And here's where the rubber meets the road. We can translate that single user journey into several really concrete promises. For provisioning time, our SLI is simply how long it takes. Our SLO could be 99% of all new service requests will finish in under 5 minutes. Or for deployments, our SLI is the failure rate. Our SLO could be less than 1% of deployments will fail over a 28-day period. See? These aren't vague goals anymore. They are specific, measurable commitments to our developers. So having these numbers is great, but using them, that's where the real magic happens. And this brings us to probably the most powerful concept of all: the error budget, and how it totally transforms how we make decisions. An SLO is so much more than just a number on a dashboard. It creates this thing called an error budget. And what that is the explicit amount of unreliability you are allowed to have. It's the gap between your SLO target and 100% perfection. For example, let's say your SLO for successful deployments is 99.5%. You've just automatically defined your error budget. It's the other 0.5%. You can think of this budget like a resource that your team can spend on things like risky experiments or rolling out new features. As long as you have budget left, you're free to innovate. But if you burn through that budget, that's a clear, data-driven signal to freeze all new features and focus 100% on reliability. So why does this change literally everything? Because now you can prioritize objectively. That endless debate about reliability work versus new features is over. The Era budget tells you what to do. You can go to your leadership with hard data, not just feelings. Your developers get crystal clear expectations. And most importantly, you stop guessing. You actually start guiding your platform's evolution with purpose. And really, this is the big transformation. With clear SLOs, you shift from that chaotic, reactive mode of just fighting fires to proactively architecting a reliable, trustworthy platform. It's all about building with confidence, because you're backed by data. So I'll leave you with this question to think about for your own work. If you could only define and track one single service level objective for your platform, what would it be? What is that one measurement that would most fundamentally change how your team makes decisions day in and day out?